Hello, this video is going to be all about Photoshop and the tricks and techniques that I've learned through the years. So I'm going to go ahead and make a document that is 1024 by 1024, a nice power 2 number for textures. Now if you're going to make a tileable texture in Photoshop, such as a pattern of some kind or maybe some noise for rock, the quickest way to do that is to go to Filter, Render, Clouds. That will give you clouds based on these two tones. Good idea to make these black and white. Now pressing X is going to flip these two colours. This will be useful later. So I can just do clouds again this way, or render clouds just to update what the last filter was. Okay, that's now automatically a tileable texture. One way to check that is to go to Filter, Other, Offset, and you can see how much you want to shift it across and down the way. So if I basically put in half of the document size, 512 by 512, you can see it's shifted without any seams. Now if I tried to do that with something random, like, you know, if I was trying to guess where the edge would be, I'm trying to guess where the edge is going to be, like that, you know, I'm thinking, can I make a tileable texture just like this? Well, go to the filter again. I can just use the last filter that I used up here, or go to Filter, Other, Offset. I'll just use the one at the top. You can see how these things don't line up down this middle part. I'm going to undo that and make that a little bit more obvious by doing some fill bits like this. You know, I'm thinking, I know how to make a tileable texture, but as soon as I do this, I can see, nope, I never got those quite right. So the right way to go about that, I'm just going to get rid of that layer. The right way to go about that, if you're going to do it that way, is to keep drawing in the middle. So you can draw your circles whatever way you want here. Then use the offset. Right, that's going to push these off to the side. Basically it's just wrap them halfway. Do more circles. Offset. Start to fill in the gaps. Whatever kind of shapes you want. Just don't touch the edges. Don't touch the edges. We use the offset to figure out. So you see, this is exactly what you want, wrapping at the edges. Just don't touch the edges. So always work in the middle. And there you go. We've got a tileable pattern. A good way to test this is to go to Define Pattern here under Edit. And that's going to take that image, and it's basically going to be a repeatable pattern. So I'll call this Shapes. And a good way to test this is to just make up a new document. Let's just say it's 4096 by 4096, so 4 times the size. And I can go ahead and make a different colour for the background. Let's go ahead and make it this red. Right, and then a new, you want to go for this one here, the sort of black and white circle, and go for pattern. And it's going to use the last pattern you used, and it says it's 100%, which basically means you can see it tile 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, so it's tile 4 by 4, exactly what you'd expect. But I can even test it at a smaller size, so 50%, give me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 by 8, and you can see, yeah, you can gradually build up a tileable texture that way. So 200% is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 400% is going to be just the same image but in a bigger size. So 100% on a bigger document is going to see it 4 times because the document's 4 times the size of what we made it. And you have to stick to these kind of numbers just to make sure it tiles. Like 25% is a quarter, 50% is half, and that just makes sure that it's going to tile. So I want to make sure I merge visible here and then do like offset, and it's not moving because it's exactly what it should be doing. I can go to filter other offset and move it a little bit like that, just a little nudge each way, and I can do that again, again, again. You can see it tiles perfectly. Okay, so I'm just going to close that. Let's look back at this background layer. So basically that plus that, they're both tileable, and I don't want to just, you know, move this like this because you can see there's no edge. It doesn't wrap itself automatically. I need to use the offset function. So I'm just going to undo that. A cool thing I can do with this background is drag it to the top here and change the mode to multiply. Right, and that's going to multiply the values over this one, but we can see that it's completely obscuring everything here because it's multiplying by whatever it sees. But what we want to do is make this a clipping mask, and now it's only being seen with those pixels here. If there's something with opacity under it, then it only shows it to that strength. So I can merge these together. Merge visible, and that gives me this pattern, and yeah, it should tile. So offset, there's no weird seam. Doing the offset, you can see I can also offset it small amounts, so let's do 64, 64, and I'll do Control Alt F, just repeats that. You can see it's shifting along there, no seams or nothing because of the way it was made. So that's the first handy tip for Photoshop, and I'll go into the next one now. Okay, so this next tutorial in Photoshop of some tricks that I like to use will be about masking. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new document, and this time go for HD resolution. Now let's say you wanted to paint some kind of landscape, and you paint, you know, the kind of land like this, maybe some hills in the foreground, and let's just fill all that in. Okay, something like that. And you've also got your background here for your sky, so I'll go ahead and make a nice blue sky. Right, go back here, and maybe I want to make some trees and things. Okay, so true enough, you can go ahead and just erase bits that you don't like. So I could erase this and erase that and erase all this stuff, but let's say I like this but I want this part back. I'd have to undo all that all the way, and you know, undo that and something else, whatever. I can't really fix it and then go and keep all what I had there. I've kind of broken the workflow a bit. So what you can do is you can add a mask, and the mask by default is white, which basically says let everything through, right? But if you paint black on the mask, so that's why this X key on your keyboard is handy, because you can switch between the black and white of the mask. If you paint black in the mask, it basically acts like an eraser. Let's make sure you're drawing with a pen. So I can go ahead and take away some of those areas like that, like I did before, as if I was using the eraser. And if I wanted this part back, all I have to do is press X to flip back, and I'm just magically drawing this back in by drawing in the mask. So the mask is basically saying if it's black, it's not allowed to be shown, and if it's grey, it's half shown, and if it's white, it's fully shown. So yeah, it's a handy way of drawing as well. So you could create a solid colour of, let's say, green here, and go to your mask. Now you can select your mask here without seeing it, but if you want to see the mask, hold down Alt and click on it. Just click on it, and it will come up like that. And if you do Control I to make it all black, so invert the colours, Control I, then that's basically saying that none of this green colour is allowed through. But now if I click on the mask and paint in white into the mask, it's going to allow this green colour through. So now I can just paint like this and say, well, all of this I want to be solid green, so I'm using my mask for that. You can also see that it's going everywhere here past this area, so I'm going to use a clipping mask, which basically is going to tie it to the pixels of this image below, and that way that's another kind of mask. There's other ways to do that as well. If you want to use multiple masks, what I do is put these in a group, so I'm control click these two layers and put them in a group, and then add a mask to the group, so it's like another mask. And now I could paint like a stripe down the middle like this to erase anything in that group. So I've got this kind of master mask of anything in the group. I can invert that as well so you can see what's going on, and that's quite useful for putting a title or something on this. Again, you could use clipping masks to some degree, but let's say I wanted to bring in a title. I'm just going to use Control L to bring all this back to white. So levels adjustment we're going to talk about soon, but they're really handy. So let's say I have a title here, and let's make this big enough, and I'll just call this landscape with a D, although landscape could be a good pun for a LAN type thing. So I'm going to like paint in here some white just to get those trees to show up a bit better, and if I press X I can flick between that two for a little bit of opacity to tone this down. And the sky, I'm going to compress the sky down a bit like that, put that there, and rasterize this font, so rasterize type, bring it out, and basically I'm going to copy it, go into the mask and paste it in there. Right, I can turn it off now, and now you can see that, let's just drag that in as well. Okay, so that's now clipping to that. I just need to invert these, and that's me now got a mask that only allows everything inside this group to be seen. And the cool thing is, if I unconnect it here, I can move the mask around without moving the image itself, and kind of use it like a viewing window to work out, you know, what would make a good part to show here. Something like that, where you get a little bit of the shapes coming through. So that's pretty cool, and it's kind of non-destructive because I can go back to any layer and do a bit more work. I can change the masking in this one where I did the hills, take some away again, press X and bring some back, the green bit as well, and go to this layer and paint where some of that's going to be, and paint some away through the mask, and really kind of just work with that. So it's just a lot of use of masks and things, and yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. So hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye. Hi, in this video we're going to talk about level adjusting and adding bloom and effects like that, and maybe some other effects like oil paint and some of the filter effects. So here's a pixel art image that I made using Background Designer and the pixel effect. I'm just going to make this look quite a bit different. So what I want to do is just make a copy of the layer by dragging the layer down to the extra layer there. There's other ways to copy layers, but I've got used to doing that. I think Control J, Control J is basically to duplicate a layer. So I've made a copy of the layer so that I can work on this one, and the first thing I want to try is levels adjusting. Now you can level adjust as an adjustment layer using this, and go to levels, and that is basically going to adjust all the layers below this. You pull this top one down to squeeze some of the white tones in a bit more. So basically white is happening earlier, right? And then black you can squeeze some of those so they happen more so as well based on this range. So you can always pull that down like that. If you want it to be brighter, you can pull this one up. And if you want it to be darker, you pull this one down. That's an overall effect. This is more like a kind of equalizer or a way to sort of normalize or bias or balance these tones out. Okay, so that is that. Now let's say you don't want it to affect both layers, then you click this here, which basically means it's only going to affect the next layer. Okay, it's not going to affect all the layers. So that's a little bit of color balancing there, but what I like to do is don't really use that. I'm going to merge these together anyway, just so it's committed, and I'll do Control J to duplicate that layer. And I like to just do levels on the fly. I don't want it to be an adjustment layer or anything like that. I just do Control L, and then I just do the same thing. So I would just adjust things as I go without it being an actual adjustment layer. It's just like a one-off go at it, and that's it done. So you can see more or less the same. Quite like this second one, used to working that way. So I've level adjusted it. I'll do Control J to copy it again, and I'm going to go up to, let's see, image, and not that one actually. This is going to be under let's see, stylize oil paint. That's it. Filter, stylize oil paint. But there's an issue here. It's grayed out, and the reason it's grayed out is because you need to go to the preferences, and let's just click on general. Make sure you go to performance and enable the graphics processor. Okay, that's the thing that does the oil paint effect. Stylize oil paint, and if we zoom in a little bit here, you can see it's kind of trying to round off the edges, and the more we do this, the more crazy it gets. You could go as high as you want, like that. It's only these two that really have an effect. You can also add lighting as well, add the lighting angle and the scale and things if you really want an oil paint look, but I like just to have that off and just work with these. So you see if I commit that, you see it's all very smeary and blurry. It's a good idea to use that in a subtle way. But what I'm going to do first is go to the filter gallery and use either a little bit of spatter, just a small bit of spatter like that, just to break up the pixel sort of look of these, and then go to filter, stylize oil paint, and that way it'll be a bit more organic. Don't want it to be super high either. I just want it to be a subtle effect, a bit like that, and it's added just a little bit of, you know, unique quality to this. I can do the same thing again. Go to filter gallery, and maybe some artistic effects like paint daubs, and that's helped to sort of soften things a bit. You can always change the brush size. Bear in mind it does get a little bit blurry, so something like that, and then go to the stylize oil paint and see if I can get a little bit more out of that. That's quite good. Okay, so I've kind of made it a bit more like a painting. There's other things I can do with this now. I'm going to do Control J to clone that again, and I'll use the levels adjust. So Control L, and I'm going to pull the top one down to make more white happen earlier, and I'm going to pull the bottom one up to kill some of the dark tones. So I've really squeezed all that information into the smaller area and lost some of the detail, but I'm doing that intentionally here. Okay, so I've done that, and I want to go to filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and just give it a little bit of a blur so that everything kind of looks a good bit softer, like that. Okay, so we've got this kind of out of focus type one and in focus, but we're going to use this as a kind of bloom effect. So enable that, and then I'm going to change the mode to you can use overlay or add or lighten or screen, and they're all pretty good for the bloom effect. Quite like screen more because it's adding correctly the brighter tones, and I can use the opacity to sort of bring this in or out. Maybe I just want it a little bit like that. But also maybe I can control this as well as the opacity, controlling it overall. I can control it with a mask. So like you've seen in the previous video where I used masks, basically I'm going to add a mask and alt click, and you see everything's white. I'm just going to make it so that this area is like that. Okay, and you can see none of this is getting the effect and everything else is, so it's the opposite. So I'm just going to click on the mask and do Control I, and now it's this area, but I don't like this edge here, so I'm going to blur it. So I'll go to filter, Gaussian blur, do that a few times, and now it's just been kind of localized to that area. I can unconnect the this little link here means any transforms or moving I do with this layer, it's going to do the same with this. So if I unlink them, I can transform with Control T and change the range of this blob. You can see it change in the mask. I can change that and move it around and do that kind of thing, so it's now just in that area. Okay, and it's starting to look a little bit like a vignette actually, so I'm going to use that. So I've alt clicked on the layer, Control A, Control C, come back out, add a new layer, and Control Shift V to paste that in place. And I'm going to change the mode here to multiply. Multiply basically says if it's white, show it as normal, if it's black, darken it. And I'm going to use a little bit of opacity here on that and blur it up some more just to soften it. I can go back to blur, Gaussian blur, and just bring up the value. Okay, that looks pretty cool. And I'm going to group all these together, put them in a folder just to show you the before and after. So there's the pixel one, and then this is it looking more like a kind of painting. That's it for this video. I hope you enjoy using that process to make your art look good, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.